Welcome to Chicago Counterpoint Television. I'm your host, Attorney Jeffrey Leving, and it's a pleasure to be here another Monday evening bringing free speech, the pursuit of justice, fathers' rights, children's rights, and everything else that is important to our way of life, our legal system, and social justice to our listening audience. And I want to let everybody know before we start the show, take a look at the Fatherhood Educational Institute's website, and you can see it right now, fatherhood-edu.org, fatherhood-edu.org, and don't forget, the Fatherhood Educational Institute has a Twitter. Follow it at fatherhood-edu, at fatherhood-edu. For our guest today, we're very fortunate to have an Illinois best matrimonial attorney, James Hagler. Fantastic lawyer. He's represented politicians. I know a very well-known Chicago alderman he represented, did a great job for this alderman. He's represented a lot of artists. I know one very famous hip-hop artist he represented, did a fantastic legal job for him. He's an incredible lawyer, and he was in the military for decades, and because of his experience in the military, he represents a lot of military fathers and protects them and their children, and he prefers winning unwinnable cases and winning them. He was recently recognized and personally thanked by President Obama. It was fantastic. President Obama personally met with James Hagler, Sergeant and Attorney James Hagler. Here's a nice photo of James Hagler, President Obama, and I'm in it. I got in the photo too. Great photo. And Jim, it's an honor to have you on the show.
Thank you, Jeffrey, and I'm really glad to be here.
Fantastic.
Wonderful winter night here.
Yeah, it is freezing out. It's ice cold out. But also, Jim, there's an article promoting you, the show, that was published in Market Watch. Here's a copy of the article. It's called Can TV Features Illinois Best Matrimonial Lawyer James M. Hagler. Fantastic article. Jim, I'd like to start talking, but apparently somebody's on the line who wants to talk to you, and they're asking for Sergeant Hagler. So, caller, you're on the air. This is Sergeant Hagler, retired, but he's an attorney now, fighting for fathers.
I have a question for a friend of mine who is paying child support, but the mother's not using the money for the kids. He suspects she's using it for drugs and for clothes for herself to go out to clubs. And he doesn't know what to do because he knows he has to pay the child support, but he also wants to make sure he keeps his kids safe, and I was wondering what he should do.
Well, I've heard that question before. Unfortunately, the people that get child support don't always use it for their children or directly to support their children, and they use it for inappropriate or selfish reasons. If there's drugs involved, I would get into court, I would file a motion, have a drug test of the custodial parent, and to see what happens, get some results that it's positive. Hopefully, your friend can get custody of that child, get the child away from the parent who's not taking care of that child. It's a terrible thing when children's money is used for inappropriate things like drugs or alcohol or just other things besides helping that child.
Exactly. And if you want more information, you can always take a look at the Fatherhood Educational Institute's website, fatherhood-edu.org. Next caller, you're on the air. I'm your host, Attorney Jeffrey Leving, and we have Attorney James Hagler here as your legal expert today.
Yes, caller, go ahead.
You're on the air. You're on the air, sir. If you don't say something soon, we're going to have to go to the next caller. Hello, hello? Okay. All right, looks like we lost him, or he lost us. I don't know where that caller went.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. What can we do for you, sir? You're on the air. Jennifer, is there a problem with anything there where the caller isn't getting through? Dee, could you please ask somebody for help? Another engineer. Thank you. Caller, for some reason we can't hear you. Could you say something? All right?
While we're waiting to get that fixed, Jeffrey, I would like to talk a little bit about military fathers. And there's a provision in Illinois law now that a military father is deployed can petition the court to have visitation with a known family member, someone that's known to the child, while they're away. So that's typically a grandparent.
Exactly.
And I think it's a great law, and I think a lot of military members aren't taking advantage of it. And any grandparents out there tonight that are listening that want to see their grandchildren or having a difficult time to do so, I urge them to get the service member to file a petition for access through the grandparent or anybody else that's well-known to the child. It's a great thing, and nobody uses it, and it should be used a lot more than it is.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, let me ask you this question. Why are there so many military fathers that are fearful of using the court system when it can help them? Where's this fear from?
I think it's because they're remote, they're not close to the family, and they feel that they're helpless, they're isolated. When you're in the military, you're in a completely different lifestyle, different system, but today we're getting much better communication. People are deployed but have access to the internet and to virtual visitation, and I think things are changing, so they shouldn't hesitate, because I believe a lot of judges are very open, receptive to the military parent maintaining a relationship with their children while they're deployed and serving our country.
Thank you, Jim. And we do have a list of callers that left messages from the last show. And Jennifer, could you do me a favor, because I know you can hear me, you're out there, could you have Dee hand them to me? I don't want her to get on the camera, but for some reason, they're not packed here. So have her just put it on the table and Jim will access it, okay? It's called preparation. Thank you. And Dee, listen to what I'm saying, please. All right, it looks like the technical problem may have been solved. Next caller, you're on the air. I'm your host, Attorney Jeffrey Leving. You're on the air, sir. Hello. What can Jim Hagler do for you this evening? You're on the air. Hello, hello?
Hello, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now, sir. What can Jim Hagler do for you?
My nephew got served with an order of protection, and he didn't do the things that were alleged in the order of protection, but yet he got kicked out of the house, can't see his kids. It's a terrible thing, and now he wants to stay at my house on top of it. But I just don't see how a system could kick a father to a curb like that and believe a one-sided story without proof and kick him out of his house. How does that happen these days?
It's terrible. I'll let Attorney Hagler answer that question, but the real issue is gender bias and a broken legal system. But that doesn't mean you give up at all. It just means you have to fight harder. Doesn't mean you give up. And Jim Hagler wins unwinnable cases. Attorney Hagler, could you please help this gentleman?
Orders of protection are routinely given out on an ex parte basis. That means that only one side's there in court. When they do that, a judge is very reluctant to not grant it, assuming they plead adequate facts that establish domestic violence. They're reluctant because in the event that those facts are true, somebody could be at risk or in danger, like a child. In your situation, your friend's situation, the child may be at risk or may not be at risk, but the order is only good for 14 or 21 days, and there's a return date. At that time, your cousin can tell his side of the story. However, it's been my experience that this is an evidentiary procedure where cross-examination skills is very important. And if you go into court for an order of protection hearing without an attorney, more likely than not, you could lose. So he needs to get an attorney, he needs to get into court, and he can file a motion with 2 days' notice to get into court to modify or rehear that ex parte order of protection. So they are not to be used for custody, by the way. They're only used to temporarily prevent a situation where there's imminent harm and domestic violence. So thank you.
And keep in mind, you want your cousin, or whomever this father is, to be safe and do everything possible to vacate or otherwise terminate this order of protection, because if it isn't, and he is charged with violating it, and he's arrested in your home, you don't want any conflict there, because if things blow up, you could end up arrested with him. So be real careful. This could be more serious than you think. And if you need any more information, here's our website. You can take a look at that, or you could call us at 312-795-9060. Caller, you're on the air with Attorney Jeffrey Leving.
Yes,
And
my question is, if there are very young children involved, I was told that men really don't have a chance to get custody and they should just wait. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely not. But I will let our guest, legal superstar Jim Battlefield Hagler, Sergeant Hagler, answer that question for you, sir. He's a fierce litigator.
Well, let me say that today we're in court and got temporary possession of a child who was maybe 7 months old, and the father is the one that got the custody of the child. If there's imminent harm, a father who, even if it's an infant, can get custody or possession of a child. As a child is breastfeeding, sometimes judges are reluctant to do that, but young children today, things are changing. The judges are much more inclined to give equal parenting time or substantial parenting time to the dad, and particularly when the child isn't in school and there's no routine to disturb. So we have two working parents, for example. Maybe dad's mom is going to be helping out with the child. There's so many scenarios, and if you don't try, you don't get anything. Father's Rights is a great book written by Mr. Leving, but if you don't fight for your rights, you don't have them. They only exist on paper. If you fight for your rights, they're going to exist in reality, and you're going to be able to see your children and parent them.
And I'm very glad that Jim brought up Father's Rights. That's my first book. I've written several books, and that book I received support from President Obama when he was a senator. That's how old that book is. My newest book, which I'm very proud of, How to Be a Good Divorced Dad, very proud of, I received a fantastic letter of support from President Obama when he became the president. There's a copy of the letter. I'm very proud of that letter, and I'm very proud to have served on President Obama's National Finance Committee. And our next caller, you're on the air, Attorney Jeff Leving with James Hagler.
My question, I have my brother. He is in a relationship right now. They have 2 children. It's kind of a tumultuous relationship, and he's been telling me that he's thinking about, divorcing her. He's just worried about what the repercussions will be with his children. Can you tell me maybe some things that he can start to prepare before having the discussion about divorce in case it does lead to a nasty custody battle?
Well, sure. I think if someone's planning on divorce, the likelihood of a divorce occurring is growing every day. So that parent needs to be involved with that child or children's lives, going to the school, knowing what subjects they're studying, helping with the homework, knowing who the doctor is, who the dentist is, getting involved in the extracurricular activities. If you want to be an involved parent, then that's what you have to do. You have to get involved with your child. And even if a parent is working a lot, there's still time. You've got to make time. And flexible time is getting more common in the workplace. So that's something he could speak to his employer about and say, I need to have this weekend, I need to have Friday off, or something like that. You got to make time for your children. If we don't spend time with our children, we're just not going to be parents that are there for our children. So those are things I would suggest he does. Also, copying all your financial documents, getting them out of the house, and having them, because when a case starts, sometimes they're very hard to find or hard to reconstruct. So that's good case preparation.
Fantastic educational insight. That's very important. Don't forget what Jim Hagler just told you. Very, very important. Caller, you're on the air, and we have Attorney Hagler here.
Question. Do they have guidelines for visitation? I know they have guidelines for child support, and I'm just kind of wondering if there are any guidelines and what they are.
Well, my opinion is, caller, if they have guidelines, they should throw them out, because most of the guidelines are antiquated, old-time thinking. There still are a couple places that have guidelines. I believe Will County still has them. Indiana does have guidelines, but talking about Cook County and the Collier counties, with the exception of Will County, there really aren't any guidelines. The old philosophy was alternating weekends and one afternoon or evening a week with the kids for dinner. Wow, that's not much for parenting. As far as I'm concerned, times have changed, and you can't really expect to have a great relationship with your children when all you do is pick them up and have to take them back, and you're in the car for half your time. So that's old-time thinking, and we don't even think about guidelines anymore. We think about fighting for every minute and day we can get for the dads today.
We think about fighting for custody. No dad wants to be a Disneyland dad or an Uncle Daddy. Too many dads, great fathers, who should have custody, walk into my office and they ask me, what are the guidelines? What's the minimum amount of visitation I could have? Because they're afraid, and I know why they're afraid. But they can't be fearful of a system when we can do everything possible to make that system work for them and their children. There are a lot of dads that have custody. I know Jim Hagler has won a lot of trials. He's reunited a lot of fathers with their children, and these dads can't give up hope. Why do you think President Obama met with him and recognized him for his work? And here's a fantastic photo. When President Obama recognized Jim Hagler, and it was an honor to be there. And why? Because Jim Hagler isn't a weakling. He's a fierce litigator, and he fights for justice. He fights for justice, for civil rights. He fights for what's right. And you can't give up hope. You can never give up hope. And remember, courage is the magic that makes dreams come true. You need courage and you need hope. Next caller, you're on the air. What can we do for you?
Hi, this is Gunther. I have a question for Attorney Hagler.
Go ahead,
Can
Gunther.
you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, what's your
You're
question?
on the air, Gunther. You're on the air,
Turn it
sir.
off.
Just talk because we can hear you. I hope there's not another technical difficulty
My
here.
name's Gunther. I have a question for Attorney Hagler. I have a 7-year-old son, and I have joint custody. The mother's Italian and wants to take him to Italy for the whole summer. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but she's got a lot of family over there, and she's been talking about wanting to live there. So my concern is if she goes over there and she doesn't come back, what, if anything, can I do?
Well, before she even leaves, sir, what I would do is get an agreed order that could be entered by the court that had your divorce. That agreed order would be what we call a Hague order pursuant to the Hague Convention, which would state that the child is going over there for a certain amount of time, will return on a certain date, and that there's no reason for this child to ever stay in Italy because this child's not under any form of duress or domestic violence or any kind of thing that would say that this child is endangered by not returning to Illinois and the United States. So that's what I would do, and protect you almost, it'd be completely bulletproof. You could even have the mother put up a bond, and she would have to pay money for legal fees and things like that if she failed to return.
We had a very difficult case, and there's not enough time to talk about it now, but the mother parentally kidnapped our client's child and took that little baby to Italy. And we were able to recover that child. It was a tough case, and I'll never forget recovering the child. Federal law enforcement assisted, and they're pretty tough to deal with, but they did assist with the recovery, and that child is now with Dad, and it's fantastic. I recently spoke to his mother, the maternal grandmother, and it was a beautiful reunion, but it was really, really tough. For more information, keep in mind, you can always contact the Fatherhood Educational Institute. There's our website, 312-795-9060. And don't forget Don't give up hope. Next caller, you're on the air. Attorney James Hagler with me, Jeff.
My wife is from Poland, and she took our two girls over to visit her family in Poland during Christmas time, and then she decided not to come back. And my lawyer, who actually speaks Polish and also knows people in Poland, he seems to be totally helpless to get them back. I just want to see my girls, and they're gone. Is there something I can do? What exactly can I do?
One, you need to talk to a lawyer who isn't a weakling, who knows the law, who's brilliant, and who's a fierce litigator. It's hard to win a difficult case when a lawyer is either incompetent or a weakling or both. I'm not criticizing whoever you spoke with because I don't know who that person is. But these are very important situations where lawyers hold the future of children in the palms of their hands. And that's a big, big responsibility. And it's hard for a lawyer to accomplish those goals if he doesn't know much and if he's weak, or if he or she is worried about work-life balance, or going to the movies or playing golf when they don't have time when their clients' children are being kidnapped or abused or sexually molested. This is a very important and critical profession where the lives of children hang in the balance. So I know where you're coming from, and we have Jim Hagler, matrimonial attorney Jim Hagler, who will address your important question. And this is so important, I even got an endorsement from Cardinal Francis George, who I respect incredibly. I recently had lunch with Cardinal Coopage, but Cardinal Francis George was a wonderful human being, and he sent me this fantastic, fantastic letter through Reverend Flens, and it's a beautiful letter, and I'm very proud that the Cardinal endorsed my book, but he recognized that the book is a pain-filled book, pain-filled, but we need lawyers that are really dedicated like Jim Hagler to protect children and alleviate that pain. Jim, could you please help this caller?
Sure. When you have an attorney that's not doing the job for you, you usually feel it in your guts. You get that feeling that that lawyer is lost or unable to assist you, and there's got to be a better way. Discharge that lawyer and get somebody, as Jeffrey said, who knows what they're doing. Could be a Hague Convention remedy that you have, and Poland is a signatory. I've been successful in returning children with Poland involved, and the Polish authorities do cooperate, unlike some other countries. Get into court, get into the Hague Convention, and see an attorney that is experienced with international custody work. Do not delay, because the one thing I heard from you was it happened around Christmas time. If you wait too long under the Hague Convention, 1 year from the date of the unlawful removal, the court will presume the children are now familiar with their new surroundings, and you'll have a very difficult time getting them back. Do not hesitate. All legal problems aren't bad if you take care of them. If you delay and procrastinate, they become terrible. So don't delay. Get this going now.
Exactly. Listen to Jim Hagler. What he said is absolutely, absolutely correct. The future belongs to those who write it. Don't sit back and let anybody write your future for you. The future belongs to those who change it. And your children are critical. They depend on you, on your hope, your courage, and your skill, and your ability to use your emotional intelligence and environmental awareness to protect their future. So don't forget about that. And also, keep in mind, the Fatherhood Educational Institute is a great charity. You can always contact them at 312-795-9060, 312-795-9060. And I want to let everybody know that I'm going to have to close the show now, but this Saturday I'll be on Power 92.3 FM, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. taking questions, and I'll be back here next Monday, same time, same place, waiting for you because I want to answer all of your questions. And if I can't answer them on the air, which I want to, email me or send me letters, but I'm going to answer all your questions one way or the other. And Attorney Hagler, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Leving. It's great to be here and talking to your callers and all those people out there, all those dads that care for their kids. fight for your kids, don't hesitate. There's nothing to be afraid of by going in the system. The worst thing is to wait and get dragged in for a child support case. That's not the way to do it. You want to go in.
Okay, and I'm sad we've had so many technical difficulties, or whatever they are, but irrespective, it's a great show. And Jim, it's an honor to have you on this show. You're just, a brilliant lawyer. He's been litigating for many years, and he served our country overseas in combat, and now he's in combat in the courts. A different type of combat. But it's a type of combat where the future of our society, of our country, hangs in the balance, because the children he protects are the future of our great nation. So again, thank you. I thank everybody for tuning in. And don't forget, Saturday, 9 a.m., this Saturday at 9 a.m., Power 92.3 FM, I'll be on with Meha, and you can tune in there for justice. But more importantly, next Monday, tune in here, and we're going to have a surprise guest. I won't tell you who it is. I don't know if that's because Jennifer didn't book one or not, or maybe it's because there is a surprise guest. But we'll find out next Monday, same time, same place. And I'd like to thank Andrei Filipovich, because he reunited two beautiful little girls with their father in Poland. And I was at the airport with the little girls while they were being transported on a plane back to Poland, and it was just a very important moment. And Andre, thank you. He's a great lawyer. Honor to work with him, and he speaks a whole bunch of languages: Polish, Ukrainian, Spanish, French. Brilliant. So working with him and Jim Hagler, it's a real honor. And Jim, is there anything you'd like to say before I take a cough drop?
Well, it's a smaller world every day here, and Chicago's a very international city. We have a lot of cases. Countries, Mexico and Poland. If there's a question about that, get into court. There are remedies. Don't feel helpless.
Yeah, because justice is out there, but you're not going to win justice if you give up hope. So we're going to wrap up the show now. I keep on getting a lot of visuals to wrap it up, but I'm waiting for a specific time sequence because I want as much time as we can get to promote justice. So I'm waiting for the specific amount of time in minutes or seconds to wrap it up, and hopefully I'll get that, because I don't want to keep on talking, and next thing you know, we're off the air. All right, I guess it's time to wrap it up now.
Good night.
All right, well, I'll see everybody same place, same time, next week. Have a great day, and God bless.